And we are live. Help a Teacher Facebook Live every Monday night. Man, I've been looking for this. This is the thing. I'm telling you, I get like one. I got to be honest. On Sundays, sometimes like a little disappointed, a little like the weekend's coming to an end. But now that I have this to look forward to, every Monday night, like so Sunday, I start getting excited. I can feel like the vibration happening, knowing that I get to have great conversation and connect with everybody on Help a Teacher. It has been awesome. Highlight of my week for sure. All right, so tonight we're gonna twist some things around. We're gonna flip the show, and we're gonna have a guest. So we absolutely have a guest, but this is gonna be really interesting because our guest tonight is none other than Teacher Toni. She is the host of the Primary Teacher Friends podcast, and she's amazing. So we go back. She saw a Teacher Rockstar event years ago in Hazard, Kentucky, and she is a second grade ELA teacher in Knott County, Kentucky, and she's awesome, man. She's like crazy. Well, I shouldn't say that. Well, she's a little crazy, and she's exciting and just vibrant and just this effervescent personality. So what we're doing tonight is we are doing a Help a Teacher Facebook Live. Simultaneously, we are recording for her podcast, and this is going to be exciting. So help me welcome my new bestie for the resty, Teacher Toni. She's coming to us live from Knott County, Kentucky. How are you?
What is up? These are so appropriate right now. Don't you think so?
I think so. I know so.
All my friends that went to Teach Like a Rockstar, they know these are so appropriate. I just wanted to give you a quick demo. This is you, okay? And this is me, okay? This
just to keep it rolling straight.
Yeah, this is Primary Teacher World, and this is Hal Bowman World of So, yes, thank you, Hal. Thank you so much for having me here. I am representing the world of primary teachers, and I am so proud to represent such a great community of people because we are out there in the trenches with the world's most important little humans. So, thank you for having me here.
You know what I always say is it's two. Here's why I love it. It's like the double whammy. One is just thinking about the leaders of tomorrow sitting in your classrooms today, and two, right there, I just love that second graders have you because they're becoming conditioned, like emotionally conditioned to how they're going to feel about education, how they're going to feel about learning. And right now they're being conditioned emotionally. They associate love and fun and friendship and all that with learning. So that I love that they walk into your class, they get that experience because that is what they're going to associate with learning for the rest of their lives.
I am very impressed with you. Thank you. All primary teachers appreciate that you know that. Did you ever teach primary?
I did. So when I first started, it was K through 12. And I was a complete disaster for sure. Because I'm like 21. I don't even know. Like, for example, the first class, because I was a music teacher in a tiny town. That meant you taught everything except music, is kind of what that meant. And so I taught elementary PE. I'm telling you, first day, they said, go get your kindergartners and take them to PE. You're also the PE teacher. And I said, okay. And I just went to the classroom. I said, are these the kindergarten? They said, yeah. And I said, let's go. And I started walking. And I remember once I got to the gymnasium, I had about a third of them, the ones I started with. I'm not sure where the other 2/3 went. I had to go. If I didn't know you're supposed to line them up and keep counting them and stuff, I didn't know any of that.
Total rookie right there. Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm a little disappointed, Hal, because I was under the impression that you hadn't worked in primary. But anyway, I'd like to give you a primary teacher quiz. How do you feel about that?
I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
Sure? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like for your audience that's watching to give you a little help when you need it. Okay. I'm going to encourage them to help you because this is pretty tough. And how long ago did you say that was that you taught kindergarten?
Oh, this is 1990. This is 30 years.
Okay. That was 1 month after I was born. So I'm going to say things have changed since then. Okay. So let's check this out. And you guys be sure to help Hal because I don't want him to be embarrassed. And let me also say that I brought a little reward for you if you work and do your very best.
I'm going to do my
I brought
best.
a reward. Okay, I pulled it out. It's so special. I almost didn't bring it, but I did bring it just for you. So there's 5 questions here. How many weeks does the average primary teacher cry in utter exhaustion, overwhelm, and regret at the beginning of the school year?
What's at the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, well, I thought you were going to make me add up all the way through beginning and then through Thanksgiving break and then through Christmas and then the last 2 months of school. Okay, so in the beginning, I'm going to go, it's at least 2 weeks and 4 days consecutively crying. So that'd be a total of 14 school days. How'd I do?
It's not looking good for you, Hal. Credit because you put in the weekends there, but it's kind of like giving birth to a child. Every primary teacher kind of forgets the pain of those first 6 weeks. Okay, it's 6 weeks.
All right, hold on, I'm taking notes in case I have to correct these later. So you're saying 6 weeks, and you're right, and I agree, man. You forget because once you birth them out of your class womb, it's you do. I'm ready. Here we go. Number 2.
Okay, number 2. What 3-syllable word has the power to completely obliterate any lesson, no matter how well planned, standard aligned, and differentiated to fit every learning style? What is that 3-syllable word that can ruin all of that?
Chocolate.
Okay. Chocolate. That's 2 syllables. 3
I pronounce it with 3. Chocolate.
Okay, you're right. Okay, here it is. Are you ready? Underwear.
I got it.
Chocolate. I'm going back. You're right on that one. In primary, what is the most common name used for sanitizer?
It's most common.
What do the kids pretty much call?
I'm going to go with Sprite.
No. It's sanitizer.
Sanitizer.
Can I have some sanitizer? Okay. All right, here we go. Which is worse? 5 consecutive root canals or 5 consecutive days of indoor recess? Which one is worse?
That's easy. If you told me 10 consecutive root canals, I'd still go at 5 consecutive indoor days of recess.
Oh, you don't know how painful indoor recess is, right in the front of things. Okay. All right. One more. All right, Mr. Hal.
I'm ready.
A child asks you to tie their shoes, okay?
Yep.
After getting started, you quickly notice that their shoestrings are soaked in a mysterious fluid, and little Johnny just came from the bathroom. What in the world do you do?
Well, since I'm already contaminated at this point, I tie them up tight, I double knot them, and then I go get my sanitizer and I clean up.
I am so proud of you, Hal. That's awesome. You put it together. A+. And since you were such a awesome student, I want you to do the silly face challenge with me.
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I'm ready to go.
I'm going to put up a silly face, and as a reward, we're all going to make it together. Okay? Are you ready for the silly face challenge?
Let's do it. I'm fired up. This is the one thing I feel good about.
Good job. All right, great job. I love the cross in there. That really set the tone. All right, thank you, Hal. I'm actually here not to be goofy and to totally embarrass you. Someone's going to screenshot that. I want you to know it's happened to me before. But anyway, I want to bring your knowledge and your expertise to my community of primary teachers. So can we start with Hal? What has brought you to this point in your career?
You know, it's man, it's been 3 decades now. And you know what it was? I just even before teaching, I just had such a passion for, you know what it is just the idea of having an impact on life. And just, it was just that emotion that would well up, you know, we're just thinking about the idea of playing a significant role in the transformation of a human being.
Mhm.
And the only thing I never even thought about anything else other than teaching school, because that's where all that can happen every day, all day long. You have opportunity after opportunity. And it seemed to me at the time, like in theory, it wasn't true when I got in there, but in theory, I thought, man, the more challenging it is, the more opportunities I had. And then I realized what more challenging it is, the more I cried, and there's a host of other things. And then, but you know, but serving as a teacher, that's all I ever wanted to do. And after years and years of doing that, I was a music teacher, K through 12, then a high school band director. Then I taught language arts and English in high school, and then some mentoring programs on biology and science classes. I was teaching a really challenging group of high school kids, and one of our administrators was going to another school, and she asked me if I would come over to her new school and show her teachers kind of what I did, how I did it with my really challenging kids, my dirty 30, as we called them in my classroom. And I went over there, and just one thing led to another. And then I just got invited to more and more schools and districts to speak. And here I am tonight, honored to talk to you.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome. And how incredible is it that now your impact has spread not only to a classroom of the dirty 30 kids, but 30 times 30 million, lots and lots of people. How many teachers do you think you've come in contact over the years?
Oh my goodness. Well, I tried to count. I mean, I used to be able to guesstimate it, or maybe 5 years more accurately ago, but it's just, I don't know, hundreds of thousands for sure. As far as live in person events, from, really large school districts where there's thousands of teachers in a district, to conferences where 5, 6, 7,000 in the audience. But you know what I love more than anything? I love I love the ones where I can see the eyeballs of everybody in the audience. Where it's a smaller district in a more rural community, or just a real more intimate setting. So now, I used to host conferences where we would have 300-400 teachers. And now what I've done the last few years, we've really limited to maybe 50, 60, 70 teachers, just because that's enough where I can connect with each person throughout that 8-hour day.
Absolutely. I'll never forget when you came to Hazard. You had our instructional supervisor, Miss Sandlin is her name, and you were on your knee. I'm pretty sure maybe you were proposing, but probably not because you're married. But her face was it was priceless and such a great event. We all left there just feeling energized. And I thought back about what I learned at that conference, and that was about 8 years ago. I was a first year teacher then, and I thought, what strategies did I come away from this with? I'm like, well, really, he just taught me how to connect with students on a level I had never considered before.
Yeah.
And all that resonated with me so deeply. And so great event. So powerful. You brought in all of the feelings, the emotions, the stories. The stories are what I remember the most. Can you share one of those stories with just that deep connection with students?
Yeah. I think, for me is when I'm, in front of an audience, and I can tell by looking, and there's really three kinds of educators in the audience. And there's people like you who I'm affirming. I mean, this is what you already believe, and you already know about making connection with kids. You're already deep into it. And and sometimes being affirmed that you're doing the right thing is really, really important, because it's so hard. It's the challenges and the emotional challenges of teaching. It's easy to get off track. And so there's a group of people that are like I am, and I'm affirming who they are and what they do every day. There's a second group of people that used to be on that path, but something happened along the way.
Absolutely.
And I can see in the moment that this is where they're coming back to the path that we're on, and they're reconnecting with the emotion and their passion and their purpose for making a difference in the lives of kids. And there's a third group, And oftentimes they have the body language where they're kind of sitting back in their chair and they have the arms crossed and kind of give me the side eye, and I always thought to myself, and when I first started, I thought, you know what, man, they're just not into it, and they don't like me, and but what I've realized over time is for some teachers that have given up on kids, but they're still coming to work every day for years, and the kid that doesn't want, they give the impression that they don't want to be talked to, so they don't talk to the kid, and they ignore some kids. It's a real painful moment. It's a painful day of professional development when they have, because they're going to have a realization. They're going to have to personally admit, I've given up on a kid, or I've said a horrible thing, or I've hurt a kid's feelings. And that's what I see. And so oftentimes the emails and messages that I get will be from that group that say, thank you for bringing me back to what I always knew I was supposed to be doing. And I'm not sure how I got sidetracked along the way. And I think you're right that it is that anecdotal storytelling approach, because teaching is emotionally driven. One of the challenges we have right now is that for months, teachers have been forced to focus on these logistical details of how I'm going to teach in this new environment. Well, those logistical details, that's not what fuels a teacher's soul. A teacher's soul, they're fueled and driven by emotion and the emotion of education. So in my mind, I have to communicate these ideas in such a way that I can emotionally connect with teachers. Because the big reason that I kind of keep it a secret is, if I walk in and I say, well, you need to do this and then that, and then here's the third step to this. Well, the vast majority of teachers are going to think, well, he doesn't have my kids. That would never work with my kid. I'm not even going to try that. So, and if they do try it and it doesn't work, then it discredits everything I said that day. Or if they do try it, it does work. Well, it doesn't mean it's going to work the second time. And so what I do is I embed all these lessons and ideas and concepts inside of emotional roller coaster stories, so that when a teacher's walking away like you did, they think, what can I do in my class? Because I know so now it's their idea. Like, I secretly planted the seed, but now they own the idea. So they're going to go back and use it and own it, and hopefully put way more emotional investment into it than I could have ever done for them.
Yeah, it's really an individualized plan that you have there, because it resonates with everyone differently. Everyone connects with you differently, and they feel differently about your message. But eventually, we do connect. That student connection is most important. It's the most important concept of any teacher's life, getting in there and connecting with those kids, and that positive reinforcement that they need. So I totally agree with that, Hal. Now, let's talk about primary students, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel it's any more important to make those connections with primary students because of their age?
I think it's critically important at every age.
Mm-hmm.
I think the personality, I'm not saying this is true 100%. I mean, I know I'm stereotyping. Generally, typically, the personality of a primary teacher, they have that in their DNA. They're built for nurturing. That's who they are. They really have, both men and women that are those teachers, both have that mothering, nurturing quality in their personality. And the secret in my work with high schools that I never say while I'm there, the secret behind it is I'm trying to get this place to run more like an elementary school. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Because those are children. Like, the kid has a neck tattoo, and yeah, he vapes, and yeah, he has horrible language, and yes, he has the appearance of an adult, but that's in a costume. It's a child in there. It's a child in there. I mean, like, if you look at the brain scan of a 17-year-old, it looks a whole lot like a 7-year-old, not at all like a 27-year-old.
Yeah, how interesting. Yeah, absolutely. I've read studies that say just exactly what you said. If we treated high school students more like elementary students, then we'd get through those barriers with them. But you have a unique personality for high school, and I think you're right that primary teachers in the younger grades have that unique personality that is more nurturing. So I definitely agree with that. But what I like to do, Hal, is I like to give teachers some advice and small things they can do to reach bigger goals. I don't know if you've read the book Atomic Habits, but
I have.
yeah, I really like that book, and I'm just looking for some small things that we can do in the classroom to kind of become rock star teachers. What is a rock star teacher? Let's start there because my audience probably doesn't know exactly what we mean. Can you tell me how do you teach like a rock star?
For me, what it's really all about is, people, I think they get the wrong impression of it because they think like I'm the star of the show, or when in my classroom, it's all about, it's not at all that. Is what I remember, growing up and, going to, which those were like big events of my generation when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s. Like that was a huge event. And I just remember the emotion of feeling that. And so it's really about the kids. I want the kids to feel like they're attending something really amazing. And I want the classroom to be a place where kids are driven emotionally. And there's a moment in these events where you feel connected with other people. And that's really what it's about in the classroom, is how do I create this place where kids want to be there? They don't want to miss. They love the feeling of it here, and they feel connected and a part of something bigger than themselves. For me, that's really what, I mean by that rock star feeling in the classroom.
Yeah. So how can we accomplish that? Can you give us some clues about how to become a rock star teacher? Thinking specifically about little people.
Yeah. I think for me, number one is, and this isn't like an exact takeaway with kids, but just for myself, the main thing has always been a sense of clarity as to what I want my classroom to be, and how I want to get really clear on my classroom feeling, how emotionally, what it looks like, what it feels like when a kid's, what it sounds like. And I found that over time, like that's really the secret behind motivation for me, and for a lot of other people. And that, we're always trying to find the emotion, the feeling of motivation, but where it really happens is when you're absolute crystal clear on what you want, specifically emotionally, physically, in every way in that room. And once we get really clear, really crystal clear about that, we can articulate it clearly, speaking about it, writing about it. Then and only then can we come up with the steps to get there. And for me, the biggest thing is the very first few minutes of class, when the kids are coming down the hall. That class has already started. If I can see them and they're in the hallway, they can see me. That class is now started. It doesn't start when they get in the room or when the bell rings. It starts when we have our first connection, whether that's 47 feet down the hall, 6 classrooms away. I'm already talking to them. I'm already cheering for them. And that greeting at the door is critical. First year teachers always ask me, what's one thing? Let me tell you the one thing. It's easy. Greet every kid.
Harry
Handshake,
Wong
eye
said,
contact.
yeah, I
Yeah,
learned that from Harry Wong, my very first year teaching. But he had,
exactly. Like it's the most critical thing.
mhm.
And it's the words we say, the eye contact, the gesture, the body language, handshake, high five, hug, whatever your style is, doesn't matter. That is such a critical moment. And then how we start the class is, I mean, just the feeling of it determines everything.
Okay, let me ask you an honest question. What do we do if we don't feel like being a rock star teacher that day? What if it's not in our heart to? What did you do on those tough days you came to the classroom? You were late for a PD the day before, totally exhausted, 10 cups of coffee just aren't cutting it. And how do
Yeah.
we pull out that rock star persona for our students on those kinds of days?
For me, it's and this is another habit, and I think James Clear even talks about this in Atomic Habits, is one of my habits I did every day. And people think I'm crazy. But here's what it is. When you get up in the morning, before you have to do this before your feet, so you can't touch the floor with your feet. Don't look at your phone. And you get up and then you just start filling yourself full. It doesn't even take a minute. It takes probably 30 seconds, just filling yourself full of appreciation and thinking about the day ahead and thinking about your kids before your feet ever hit the floor. And so it just, and so to do that, I had to put little note cards next to my bed. So I wake up and I see the note card. Oh, I do my appreciation thing. So I do that. And then here might be the biggest thing of all. And I think I talked about it this last week, and I don't recommend anybody ever to do this. I'm just saying it works for me. And I know it's not true. I know I'm lying to myself, but it doesn't matter. What I do is I completely convince myself, all those kids I have in my classroom family, I'm the only adult in their life. Now, listen, I know some have awesome parents, and some have an amazing grandparents, and some have an awesome youth minister, and they have a t-ball coach. Like, I get it, but not when they're in my room. When they're in I'm convinced I'm the only one they have, and that way, I can't afford to miss a day. And besides that, man, I just remind myself of the passion and just the crazy, just this honor, this incredible responsibility that we have, the privilege of standing before kids every day. And like I said in the beginning, they really are the leaders of tomorrow. And just reminding myself of these things as I'm walking into school, as I'm walking down the hall, as I'm greeting other teachers, as the kids are coming to and just constantly focusing on it, it's almost impossible to not be ready for the day.
Love it. Absolutely. I actually use some of those strategies too. It's kind of hard at times to reconnect with your why, the purpose behind what you do. But when you do that, it does boost your energy. I actually like to listen to loud music. That kind of helps me no matter how grouchy or tired I am. So love that. Love that. So thank you, Hal, for letting us know kind of how to reconnect with our passion. And just I really like how you focus and say, these kids need me. I'm the only adult in their life, because it could be true for some kids, even though not for all.
Yeah.
So
And the reason I convince myself that it's all, because you can't pick and choose which kid needs you and which kid doesn't. My mom told me when I was growing up, my mom said that your kids your kids will forever be better actors than you are a teacher. And like what she meant was you don't know just because some kid has a big giant house at the top of the mountain with a picket fence and two parents have awesome jobs. You don't know what really goes on in that house. Just because you go to church and kids at youth group, you don't know what really happens behind that door. So it has to be you have to set it up in your mind like that. That way you don't miss a kid.
I love it. Okay. I've got another good question for you, because you're just rocking, no pun intended, you're just rocking the answers here. Okay. And I'm going to give you another silly face challenge after this one.
I'll be
Um,
ready.
so I've done some validation calls for a course I'm creating about joy in the classroom. And teachers at this moment in time, how they are just so exhausted and tired. I'm really concerned for teachers and their well
Yeah.
being and just their passion. What do you say to teachers in this moment that we're in today with everything going on? What do you say to them? Um, for the sake of children and all things good in education, how do we keep them around for this and keep them motivated to hang in there, just to hang on?
Yeah. I mean, before I tell you, what really concerns me the most is that here's what concerns me the most as like one teacher to another is our best teachers are here because of the pay. And what I mean by the pay for our great people, I'm talking about the reward of this emotional reward of knowing you can feel it. Dude, you're making a difference in the lives of kids. You can feel it. That's why our best teachers are here. What really concerns me is because in times like this, they're not receiving that pay. They don't feel that. They don't see the evidence of that. So I'm terrified that we're going to lose a lot of our best teachers.
I am too. Yeah, I am too.
And I think more than ever as teachers, and I listen, I tell this to principals all the time, but it's not just up to them. It's not just up to APs or counselors or principals. It has to be those in the classrooms, those of us in the classrooms. we have to search out and find the evidence that this is working, that we're making a difference in the lives of kids, to look for here. Listen, I know there's so much evidence of that because we're educators. Oftentimes we overlook it. Oftentimes we don't stop and recognize the moment for what it is. All too often we'll see some a video that goes viral of a teacher in a hallway hugging a kid, and the kid's crying, and the teacher's holding, consoling the child, and they'll still get like a million views. And I'm like, I love that was some recognition there, but I'm also thinking, I can't, like, that happens every day in every school.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason it gets a million views is because it's people, a person outside of education can clearly see that's a life-changing moment for that kid. But as an educator, that's the job. That's what we do every day, all day long. So we don't recognize the value of it. And I really think what we can do right now is help each other in the classrooms see the evidence of the lives being changed, and to talk about that regularly in the hallway huddle that I recommend all teachers, take a moment just for 30 seconds to huddle up in the hallway once or twice a day to talk about successes and wins they're having when they're at lunch, to really have structured conversation about the great things that are happening for kids. It's so hard not to sit there and get caught up in that toxic discussion of how hard. Look, I know it's hard. And yes, there has to be some conversation so so you can get it out that you're frustrated and challenged and emotional. That, yes, that has to be voiced. But in addition to that, what's more important is to talk about the truth that's happening, and that lives are changing because of the work that you do day in, day out, year after year, decade after decade for those kids.
Yeah. Teachers are so much more powerful than they give themselves credit for. They can accomplish so much more even through a computer screen than they really understand. Actually, I want to mention my friend Barbara. We were just talking about self care on the podcast. And another thing that she recommends teachers do is sometimes when we're through the screen virtually, we don't feel the gratitude that we normally would feel when teaching in person. So Barbara told me this awesome strategy. She has the counselors write a thank you letter to themselves. And that's kind of hard for teachers to do. But then they get
Yeah.
a friend and they read it out loud. And she said the tears just flow because sometimes we have to be so emotionally involved in our work that we have to thank ourselves when there's no thank yous, because that's how passionate we are. That's how eager we are to continue. That sometimes you have to just say, you know what? I killed it today, and those kids did exactly what they needed to do, and we had fun in the process. So, thank you for being who you are today. Thank you for not getting on Facebook and having another teacher rant today.
Yeah. I think it's so true. I think that simple appreciation, and the proof of it is just every teacher, it's been teaching more than a few years, has been in Walmart, and some kid sees you, hey, and they bring up something that they remember, and there's this moment of appreciation, and oh my gosh, you're just fueled for the next 2 weeks. You feel so.
Oh,
All
yeah.
it was that a kid remembered and said thank you and acknowledged the work that you did, and there's this euphoric sense of appreciation, and you feel amazing. Well, you're right. Like, that's why we're in this business. And if that tiny thing in the Walmart can give you that kind of fuel, imagine that if we started shifting the paradigm of helping each other up and down the hallway in our classrooms to look for the evidence and point it out to each other and say, oh my gosh, when you were hugging that kid, that third grader that got an 85, that's the highest grade he's ever got on a spelling test. To me and you, it's an 85. No, that's the best grade in the history of his educational career. Like, that's a moment,
Yeah.
and to point that out to each other and see it for what it is. I think, I really hope we can do a better job at that.
Yeah, that has a lot to do with school culture. And I know you work a lot with schools on school culture and those kinds of areas with administration. How do you encourage that? How do you encourage that community within schools and within teachers to kind of pick up on those things and, encourage each other and cheer for each other? That's kind of hard in education.
It is. And, one of the, People always want to know, what is it about those amazing schools that you find across the nation? Like, what's the big secret? And like, I really wish there was something more scientific. But the main here's the main thing is at some point, those schools that we find the closest families, I mean, with schools where teachers love being there, and like you gotta wait for somebody's spouse to get transferred out of the state to get a job, and like no one's leaving this place, and where they're bringing babies to school and they're at each other's house. I mean, these kinds of amazing schools where the main thing is when everybody understands that we all have different job titles of adults on campus, but we all have the same role, and that is to change a kid's life. And when every teacher believes that, the secretary, the school nurse, the custodian, that they realize, yeah, my role, my job title is school custodian, but my role is to make a difference in the lives of kids. That's when every teacher believes that, and every person, every adult working on campus believes that, that's when we have these magical shifts. And in addition to that, is this the second thing is when everyone is convinced that school culture is solely up to me, nobody else. It's up to me. So when you get out of your car, you're walking across the parking lot, you're not thinking, man, I wish the principal would do something about this. It's so negative. That shouldn't even ever cross your mind. The culture on this campus is up to one person, and one person is me. And when everybody believes that, it becomes awesome. And I can tell you, one of my favorite schools I work with in Louisiana. I was there before all this at the end of last year and speaking, and they were there. It was at the end of the school year, and they announced their teacher of the year, and the teacher of the year that won was a school custodian.
Wow, love that. Love that.
That dude is holding class. They have in that middle school, they have like a 4 or 5 minute passing time in between classes. He's teaching. He's got 4 minutes to get his lesson across. His kids are going past it in the hallway. He's teaching up a storm.
Their connections with students is surreal. You see them high-fiving in the hall and having
Yeah,
good conversation. If the custodian has to come in the classroom, I just automatically give up that few moments of teaching because every kid has to say hi. So I kind of just let that go to him. He deserves it. That those are great connections.
absolutely.
So that was a wonderful answer, Hal. I'm going to give you another silly face challenge, and I'm going to
I'm ready. Let's do it.
try to. Okay. All right, here we go. Are you sure?
So I'm ready. Here we go. I want to ace it.
I can't do that one. Awesome. Now you are an inspiration. You are uplifting teachers all over the country and probably world. And we appreciate that. We appreciate your dedication to giving us encouragement and helping us get through. It's so important what you're doing because what we are doing is so deeply important. So thank you for that. I appreciate you coming on the podcast. How can we connect with you? How can my listeners find you and your events? What's going on with you in the near future?
Yeah, I have some interesting stuff coming up. I have, well, my kind of like the flagship professional development program is Teaching a Rockstar. And, that has been a live event for over a decade. And, I just don't know when we're going to get back out there and do live events. I've done virtual events for schools and districts and conferences, obviously. And I never imagined I would say this, but it's actually been awesome. I loved it. I didn't love it at first, but I kind of figured out how to do it, and I figured out how to build connection. And what's amazing is in a conference, when it's a live event, I don't know what people are thinking. I can see expressions, but what's cool is when you do it in Zoom or something like that, you can see the chat. So I can see what's on everybody's mind, which is really helpful for me. And then of course we have the Be the One, which is event for shifting school culture, and which is, we're gonna wait a little longer, I think, as well to get that rolled back out, is with the fact that we're seeing spike in cases. And what has been exciting is I think this might be the first time I've ever talked about this, is I've created a video series for teachers to do exactly what we talked about, which is help teachers feel empowered and inspired for reconnecting with their life's calling, which is to use the content of their classroom to make a difference in the lives of kids. So that way, schools can get a video. They're going to get a brand new video every week or every week to 10 days. And it's going to go all the way through the next school year. So it's going to go through this year into October of next year. And man, it's just a way to help teachers through the power story and anecdote is to get reconnected with their passion for teaching and making a difference in the lives of kids. And it's been, I'm excited about it. It was, when I first started this, I in the past, I've really thrived off of, the live event. So making videos are really, really challenging for me when no one's in the room
Do you feel
except me
like
and the
Dora
camera.
the Explorer? Do you feel like Dora the Explorer, like
Yeah.
asking a question, long pause? No,
Right.
no.
And so these videos are coming out. It's I'm really excited about it. I've showed a few people and they're removed, and so
How
I think it's gonna be really good.
how can we access those videos?
You know what I'm gonna do is I have about a few schools we're gonna get started with, just kind of make sure that they love it, make sure I'm not full of myself, and then what I'll do is I'll post it on social media here on Facebook, and then in those types of things.
Okay, I'm gonna do one quick commercial for you. Guys, listen to
Yes.
Hal. Listen to Hal. Watch his video series. You will go from this to this.
Come on, who doesn't want to do that?
That's all right, Hal. Thank you so much. I will let you take over if you have any questions for me or anything like that. Oh, I want to teach you one more thing. I love using cheers in the classroom. This one is the You Rock cheer. And this is from my friend Dr. Jean. I don't know if you know Dr. Jean, such a wonderful lady. But it's called the Rockstar cheer. So it goes like this. You rock. And we use that in the classroom. The kids love it. So just wanted to show you the rock star cheer before I let you
I love
go.
it too. Hey, listen, let me ask you real quick. I knew I was reading your bio, and you know, I it it has occurred to me that the vast majority of teachers, and again, I'm clearly stereotyping, the majority of teachers come to the classroom from a place where they had tons of support at home. They had a, kind of traditional family, two parents that both had a job. Sometimes their parents were educated. It was kind of what they do in the family. There's kind of this legacy of education. They're super successful, and they thought, well, this is easy and fun. I'll just be a teacher. But in reading your bio, it looked like that maybe your background was something other than that, something different. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your path from a kid and kind of what you were facing and how you kind of ended up in the classroom.
Well, I am a first generation college graduate, and I'm not complaining at all about my childhood because every obstacle that I overcame has brought me here and has given me more empathy and sympathy for kids in the classroom. I wouldn't change anything that has ever happened to me. But yes, I am the first person to graduate college. I live in a very, a poor area in the country, southeastern Kentucky, and I was definitely some of the poorest of the poor here. Not complaining, because as I said, it helps me connect with my students. And teachers in public schools were the light in my life. So the little public schools here in Eastern Kentucky, I'm a product of that. So I'm proud of teachers and no teachers in my family. So definitely come from a different background than most friends that I know. A lot of friends that I have who are teachers had that going on. Did you have teachers in your family, Hal?
All of them. Yeah,
See,
lots.
so it's definitely a different path that I took. So I have to say that the teachers that I had that encouraged me, they're the reason that I became a teacher. So I had some really powerful teachers that really encouraged me along this path. And that went from primary school all the way up to even high school and college. So many great teachers just drizzled in that journey.
Yeah. For your teachers, when you think back, your most memorable teachers in your K through 12 experience, what in terms of elementary school, was that when you first started having a thought, maybe someday I could be a teacher too?
Well, I'll tell you, my mantra that I live by is that I'm making my mama proud. Okay. And so that's my mantra. I say that to myself every day. When I was in elementary school, my mommy said to me, "You're going to grow up and be a teacher." I'm like, "No, I don't want to be a teacher. I want to move to the ocean and be a marine biologist, mom." Okay. And so I didn't know it, but she saw those qualities in me because I was modeling what I saw at school. I was modeling that love, that care, and, just playing teacher here and there, but really denying most of my life that I wanted to be a teacher. And so now, I mean, it really didn't come to me that I wanted to be a teacher until I went to high school, and the high school librarian, her name's Johnny Patrick. I wasn't going to go to college, but she brought me the application. She said, "Fill this thing out. I'm going to make you turn it in." And that's when I chose my career path right there as a senior in high school. So
Yeah. And then when you got through college and you started doing the whole student teaching thing, you're visiting classes and doing observations, did that motivate you even more, or did you start thinking, man, I'm not sure I can actually do this?
it came naturally to me at that moment. It came from encouragement from the teachers that I work with. They're like, "Wow, you have this natural talent in the classroom. The kids hang off what you say. They're very engaged. All those things." And kind of like, even if I doubted that that's what I wanted to do, that encouragement boosted me in that direction.
Mm. Hey, do you also have I know just looking at your resources, do you have resources on Teachers Pay Teachers?
I do. I sell resources for teachers, mostly in the literacy area, phonological awareness, all those fun things. Yeah, I do. And I serve a great community of teachers on my podcast and through my website. I have a lot of free resources that I like to put out there just to help teachers make their job a little easier and enjoy their work a little more.
And then what's your I'm sorry, would you remind me of your website?
TeacherToni.com. Yeah,
That's right, Teacher Toni.
TeacherToni.com.
Yeah, and so folks go to teachertony.com. They can see a link to your primary teacher friends podcast and also all the resources you have on Teacher Pay Teacher. And listen, that like I love the TPT thing. Just thinking back and just the hours I spent trying to create what tens of thousands of teachers across the nation have already created, but back then we didn't have access to it. We couldn't find it. And just to find, but now if you think about it, the teacher who is into it and they're already creative and talented and they have their stuff. And since they know other people are going to use it, they're putting extra time and care into it. I love that there is that just wealth of resources for teachers. I love that you have that going on.
Thank you. I really find a lot of passion in it, especially when a teacher thanks me. They're like, "I see the time you put into this, and my kids have shown growth. They've really enjoyed it. They're really engaged." There's nothing like that feeling, knowing that my impact has gone outside of the classroom, out of my classroom.
Yeah. Hey, for you, I'm just curious, in what you see in your experience, for those teachers that are just now coming in, first year young teachers, and that this is their first year, what what would you share with them?
Well, first of all, I'd share that, this definitely is not a typical year. And just like you kind of went into how the connections and the motivation you feel from being in person completely empowers you to continue. What I would tell them is to seek out positive influence and positive mentors. One thing I did naturally from the very beginning of my teaching, and something that has sustained me so many years, is I found people who filled me up. They filled my cup, and they kept me boosted and going. They told me what I was doing was worth it. Kind of like your message. You were one of those people on the path in my very first year of teaching. And so, like, I still find those mentors that I call when I need help. It's never a weakness to ask for help. And I think a lot of teachers, a lot of new teachers miss that. It's kind of a fear that, well, they'll kind of know I'm an imposter if I ask for help, but really we're all learning and we're all on a journey to get better all the time. So I think that would be my advice to new teachers is just don't be afraid to ask for help and find the people who are a positive influence. If that's a podcast, if that's, a YouTuber, whoever it is that puts positive thoughts in your mind, that will help you keep afloat until the passion really kicks in.
Yeah. And I've always said, more than ever, this we have everything we need at our fingertips to create your own little group, the tribe that has your vibe and kind of have the and kind of set up the rules. Okay, this is the group we're all going to come to for hope and inspiration and talk about the wins that we're having. Maybe once in a while we can have an online happy hour. We talk about some challenges, but for the most part, 90% of the time, let's spend encouraging each other and reminding each other what this passion, what this career, what our life's calling is all about. And if you have that in your life, it's incredible. It's a group of guys that I hang out with online, and five of them have put together this daily moment where early in the morning when they all drive to work at the same time, and they get on their app where they can talk at the same time. It's just nothing but inspiring each other on the way to work, and it's all men. And so they're talking about being the dad in the lives of kids that don't have a dad, and all those things. I mean, it's a life changer for these guys.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big deal and that's what every teacher needs, but we don't know to seek that out at times. I've been
Yeah.
very good at seeking out positive influence. So that would be one of my strengths. So
Yeah, it's critical, especially now more than ever. Well, hey, listen, thank you so much. I love that we got to spend time together. I love all that you have going on, your podcast, your website, all your resources, and of course, most of all, um, just who you are for your kids that you have accepted the honor and privilege of standing before every day. I love that they have you in their lives.
thank you, Hal. Thank you. One more just for the trip.
Yes, I'll take it. I got that one easy.
Thanks, Hal. Appreciate
All
you.
right. Have a great night.
Okay.